A man rushes into work 2 hours late, soaking wet and covered in mud. His boss is waiting, furious, ready to fire him on the spot. But when Marcus Cole explains why he's late, why he had to save a drowning child from a flash flood, everything changes. Not just for him, but for the hard-hearted boss who's forgotten what really matters in life. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Marcus Cole's alarm didn't go off. That was the first disaster of the morning. He jolted awake at 7:43 a.m., a full hour and 13 minutes after he should have been up, his heart immediately racing with the kind of panic that comes from knowing you're already behind. No, no, no! He scrambled out of bed, nearly tripping over the laundry basket he'd meant to put away 3 days ago. His phone, which should have woken him at 6:30, was completely dead. He'd forgotten to plug it in last night after working late on his son's science project. "Dad?" a sleepy voice called from down the hall. "Is it time for school?" Marcus rushed to his son's room. 10-year-old Jordan was sitting up in bed, his dark curls standing up in every direction, his brown eyes still half closed with sleep. "Buddy, we overslept. We need to move fast, okay?" Jordan was dressed and ready in 12 minutes, a new record. Marcus threw on his work clothes while simultaneously making breakfast, packing lunch, and trying to remember if today was gym day or library day. The coffee maker chose that exact moment to die, sputtering out half a cup before giving up entirely. "Of course," Marcus muttered, downing the lukewarm coffee anyway. He needed every bit of caffeine he could get. His boss, Catherine Westfield, had already given him 2 warnings about punctuality this month. One more, and he was done. They were out the door by 8:15, already 15 minutes behind schedule. Marcus worked as a project coordinator at Westfield Development, a commercial real estate company downtown. His shift started at 8:30 a.m. sharp, and Catherine was a stickler for punctuality. No excuses, no exceptions. That was her motto, printed on a plaque in her office. "Can we take the highway?" Jordan asked from the back seat, buckling himself in. "No time. We'll cut through the back roads." Marcus knew a shortcut that would save them 10 minutes if traffic cooperated. He just needed one thing to go right today. The universe, it seemed, had other plans. They were halfway through the shortcut, driving down Old Creek Road, a narrow 2-lane route that wound through the wooded outskirts of town, when Marcus saw the water. The heavy rain from the night before had caused the creek to overflow. Water was rushing across the road, turning it into a shallow river. Marcus slowed down, assessing. The water didn't look too deep, maybe 8 inches? His sedan could handle that. He'd crossed worse. "Dad, are we going through that?" Jordan leaned forward, peering at the water with interest rather than fear. At 10 years old, he thought his father could handle anything. "We'll be fine. Just hold on." Marcus eased the car forward into the water. It was deeper than it looked, maybe a foot. The car pushed through steadily. They were going to make it. Then Marcus saw her. A girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, standing on the opposite bank of the overflowing creek, screaming and pointing downstream. Marcus followed her gaze and felt his heart stop. A small child, a boy couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old, was in the water, being swept downstream by the current. His small arms flailed, his head going under and resurfacing as he struggled against the rushing water. Marcus didn't think. He slammed the car into park right there in the middle of the flooded road, water still flowing around the tires. "Stay in the car," he shouted at Jordan, already throwing open his door. "Dad, what are you—" But Marcus was already out, running toward the creek bank. The little boy had been swept around a bend, disappearing from view. Marcus ran along the bank, his work shoes sliding in the mud, his dress pants already soaked from the knee down. He could hear the girl still screaming behind him. "Help! Someone help! My brother!" Marcus spotted the boy maybe 30 yards downstream. He'd gotten caught on a fallen log, his small hands gripping it desperately, his face full of terror. The current was strong, pulling at him, and Marcus could see the boy's grip starting to slip.
There was no time to think about how cold the water would be, no time to worry about the current or the rocks or any of it. Kicked off his shoes and dove in. The shock of the cold water stole his breath. The current was stronger than it looked, immediately pulling him downstream. Marcus fought against the current, swimming hard toward the log where the boy clung on. "Hold on!" Marcus shouted, though he wasn't sure the boy could hear him over the roar of the water. "I'm coming!"
It took everything Marcus had to reach the log. His arms burned, his lungs screamed for air, but he pushed forward. When he finally reached the boy, those small hands immediately grabbed for him, the grip surprisingly strong for someone so little. "I got you," Marcus gasped, wrapping one arm around the boy while using the other to grab the log. "I got you, buddy. You're okay." The boy was crying, coughing up water, shaking violently from cold and fear. Marcus held him tight, trying to figure out how to get them both back to shore. The current was relentless, and now that he was in it, Marcus realized how dangerous this was. One wrong move, and they'd both be swept further downstream. "Dad!" Jordan's voice cut through the chaos. Marcus looked up to see his son standing on the bank, holding a long branch. "Here, grab this." Jordan must have gotten out of the car against orders, but Marcus had never been more grateful for his son's disobedience. He reached for the branch with his free hand, holding the little boy against his chest with the other. "Pull!" Marcus shouted. Jordan pulled, his face scrunched with effort. It wasn't enough to move them, but it gave Marcus leverage. He kicked hard, using the branch as an anchor point, fighting the current inch by inch. The little boy clung to him like a lifeline, his small body still shaking. It took everything Marcus had, but slowly, agonizingly, they moved toward the bank. Jordan kept pulling, and when they were close enough, Marcus pushed the boy up onto the muddy shore. Jordan grabbed the kid, pulling him fully out of the water. Marcus hauled himself out after them, collapsing on the bank, his chest heaving, his entire body shaking. The little boy was crying, great heaving sobs, but he was alive. He was breathing. The girl, the one who'd been screaming, came running up, throwing herself at her brother. Tommy, I'm sorry. I told you not to go near the water." Marcus sat up, still trying to catch his breath. "Is he okay?" His voice came out rough. The girl nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I think so. We were just playing. He wanted to see how high the water was, and he slipped, and then—" She couldn't finish, dissolving into sobs. "Where are your parents?" "Home, just up the hill." She pointed to a house visible through the trees. "We're not supposed to be out here." "Okay, can you get them? Tell them what happened? This boy needs to get checked out." The girl nodded and ran toward the house, still crying. Marcus looked at the little boy. Tommy. He'd stopped crying, but he was shivering violently, his lips starting to turn blue. Shock and hypothermia. Marcus knew the signs. "Jordan, get the emergency blanket from the car. Under the back seat." Jordan ran. Marcus picked up Tommy, holding the boy against his chest, trying to warm him with body heat. "You're okay, buddy. You're gonna be fine." Tommy looked up at him with wide, terrified eyes. "I fell in." "I know, but you're safe now." A woman came running down the hill, the girl racing ahead of her. "Tommy! Oh my God, Tommy!" She reached them and took the boy from Marcus's arms, holding him close, her face pale with fear. "What happened? Sarah said he fell in the creek." "He got swept downstream," Marcus explained, his teeth starting to chatter from the cold. "He caught on a log. I pulled him out, but he needs to see a doctor. He swallowed some water, and he's going into shock." The woman was crying now, holding her son like she'd never let go. "Thank you. Oh God, thank you. I'll call 911. She looked back at her house. "Come up to the house. You need dry clothes. I need to call." "I can't." Marcus looked at his phone, miraculously still in his waterproof case. The screen showed 9:47 a.m. His heart sank. He was already more than an hour late. "I have to get to work." "But you're soaking wet." "I know, but I'm already late. My boss—" He stopped. There was no way to explain Catherine Westfield to this woman, no way to make her understand that showing up 2 hours late, even with the best excuse in the world, might cost him his job. And he needed this job.
After his wife died 3 years ago, this job had been his lifeline, the paycheck that kept the lights on, kept Jordan fed, kept them afloat. Jordan appeared with the blanket. Marcus wrapped it around the woman and her son. Get him to a hospital, make sure they check him for water in his lungs, and keep him warm. I don't even know your name, the woman said. Marcus Cole. I have to go. I'm sorry. He turned and ran back to his car, Jordan right behind him. His clothes were dripping, leaving puddles on the driver's seat. His work shirt was covered in mud. His pants were torn at the knee. He looked like he'd been in a fight with a swamp and lost. Marcus started the car and drove through the remaining floodwater, his hand shaking on the wheel. Dad, that was amazing. You saved that kid's life. I was just doing what anyone would do. Not anyone. Some people would have driven past. Marcus didn't respond. He was too busy trying to figure out what he was going to say to Catherine Westfield. How do you explain this? How do you make someone understand that being late to save a child's life was worth whatever consequences came next?
By the time he dropped Jordan at school, 45 minutes late, requiring a note from the office, and drove to his office downtown, it was 10:37 a.m., more than 2 hours late. Marcus parked in his usual spot, looking down at his ruined clothes. There was no way to hide this, no way to pretend he just overslept or hit bad traffic. He looked like a disaster. He took a deep breath and got out of the car. The Westfield Development Office was on the 3rd floor of a gleaming downtown building. Marcus walked through the lobby, acutely aware of the stares from the receptionist, from colleagues getting coffee, from everyone who saw the muddy, dripping man walking through their pristine office. Catherine Westfield was waiting at his desk, arms crossed, face like stone. Mr. Cole, her voice could have frozen fire. Marcus stopped a few feet away, leaving a small puddle on the carpet beneath him. Miss Westfield, I know I'm late. I can explain. 2 hours and 7 minutes late. Her voice was cold, precise. This is your 3rd late arrival this month. I gave you very clear warnings about punctuality. I know, and I'm sorry, but this morning, I don't want to hear excuses. Catherine's gray eyes were hard. Do you know how this looks? How it looks to the rest of the team when I let you show up whenever you feel like it, when I allow you to disregard the rules everyone else follows? Miss Westfield, please. And to show up looking like you've been wrestling in a swamp? She gestured at his appearance. This is a professional office, Mr. Cole. We have standards. A child was drowning. The words came out harder than Marcus intended. There was a flash flood. A little boy fell in the creek. I pulled him out. That's why I'm late. That's why I look like this. Catherine's expression didn't change. Convenient. Marcus felt anger flare in his chest. Convenient? You think I'm lying? I think you're desperate to avoid the consequences of your poor time management, and I think you'd say anything to keep your job. She pulled an envelope from her jacket pocket. Mr. Cole, effective immediately, you're terminated. Please collect your personal belongings and leave the building. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. You're firing me for saving a child's life? I'm firing you for repeated tardiness and unprofessional behavior. The story about a drowning child is irrelevant. Irrelevant? Marcus's voice rose. Several co-workers had gathered, watching the scene unfold. A boy almost died. I jumped into a flooded creek and pulled him out. My son helped me, and you're calling that irrelevant? I'm calling it an excuse. Catherine held out the envelope. Your final paycheck will be mailed to you. Security will escort you out. Marcus stared at her, this woman who valued punctuality over compassion, rules over human life. You know what? You're right. This is irrelevant, because working for someone who cares more about being on time than doing the right thing, I don't want that job anyway. He turned and walked toward his desk to collect his things, his soaking shoes squelching with every step. Catherine Westfield watched Marcus Cole walk away and felt nothing but satisfaction that she'd handled the situation decisively. This was why she was successful. This was why she ran a multi-million-dollar company at 38. She didn't accept excuses. She didn't bend rules. She turned back to her office, ignoring the stares from her employees. "Ms. Westfield," her assistant, Jennifer, appeared at her elbow. "Are you sure about this? Marcus has been with us for 3 years. His performance reviews are excellent." "His performance is irrelevant if he can't show up on time." Catherine walked into her office and closed the door. She had a company to run. She didn't have time to coddle employees who couldn't follow basic rules. Catherine buried herself in work for the next several hours. Conference calls about the new downtown development project, contract reviews for the property acquisition on 5th Street, a meeting with investors who wanted updates on quarterly returns. It was almost 3 p.m. when Jennifer knocked on her door. "What is it?" Jennifer stepped in, holding her phone. "Ms. Westfield, you need to see this." "I'm busy. It's about Marcus Cole. It's all over the news." Catherine felt the first stirring of unease. "What's all over the news?" Jennifer held out her phone. On the screen was a video, shaky and shot from a distance, but clear enough. It showed a man diving into rushing water, fighting against the current, reaching a small child clinging to a log. The timestamp in the corner read, "This morning, 8:47 a.m." Catherine's stomach dropped. A woman named Linda Harrison posted this on social media an hour ago. Her daughter Sarah filmed it on her phone. The man in the video is Marcus Cole. The boy he saved is her son Tommy. He's 5 years old. According to her post, Tommy would have drowned if Marcus hadn't jumped in to save him. Catherine took the phone, watching the video play again. The man, Marcus, fought the current with everything he had. She could see the strain, the desperation, the sheer determination as he reached the boy. Could see an older child on the bank, Marcus's son, pulling them both to safety with a branch. "It's been shared over 50,000 times in the last hour," Jennifer said quietly. "Local news stations are picking it up. Someone tagged our company. People are calling Marcus a hero." Catherine felt cold. "There's more." Jennifer took back her phone and pulled up another post. Linda Harrison wrote a follow-up 30 minutes ago. She says she found out where Marcus worked and called the office to tell his boss what he did, but she was told Marcus had been fired this morning. She's asking people to share the story. She's saying, Jennifer trailed off. "She's saying what?" "She's saying that Marcus's boss fired him for being late, even after learning he saved her son's life. She's calling it inhumane. She's calling for people to boycott Westfield Development." Catherine sat down heavily in her chair. "That's not what happened." "Isn't it?" Jennifer's voice was soft but pointed. "You fired him before he could explain. You called his story irrelevant. I didn't know. You didn't want to know." Jennifer set her phone down on Catherine's desk. "With respect, Miss Westfield, Marcus tried to tell you what happened. You cut him off. You called it an excuse." Catherine stared at the video, still playing on loop on Jennifer's phone. Watch this man, this employee she just fired, risk his life to save a child. The phones have been ringing non-stop. Local media wanting comments, people calling to express their outrage. This is going viral, Miss Westfield, and not in a good way. Catherine picked up her own phone and opened social media. The first thing she saw was a trending hashtag, #JusticeForMarcus. She clicked on it and felt her stomach turn. Thousands of posts, tens of thousands, people sharing the video, sharing Linda Harrison's story, expressing fury at the heartless boss who fired a hero for saving a child's life. Someone had posted a photo of Westfield Development's office building with the caption, "This is where compassion goes to die." Another post had a side-by-side comparison, the video of Marcus saving Tommy next to a screenshot of Westfield Development's website motto, "Building communities with heart." The comment read, "Building communities with heart? More like building profits with none." Catherine felt the walls closing in. She'd built this company from nothing. 15 years of 90-hour weeks, of fighting for every contract, of proving herself in an industry that didn't want to make room for women. She'd sacrificed relationships, friendships, everything, to build something that mattered. And now she was being painted as a villain. because she'd enforced the rules, because she'd demanded professionalism, because she'd been too angry to listen. "Get Marcus Cole on the phone," Catherine said. "He's not answering. I've tried 3 times. Then find his address. I need to speak with him in person." Jennifer hesitated. "Miss Westfield, maybe you should consult with PR first, or legal? This is turning into a crisis." "I don't need PR to tell me I made a mistake." The admission cost Catherine, but she said it anyway. "I need to talk to Marcus, now." It took Jennifer 20 minutes to get Marcus's address. Catherine left the office without explanation, driving across town to a modest neighborhood where the houses were small but well-maintained. Marcus lived in a pale yellow bungalow with a neatly trimmed lawn and a basketball hoop in the driveway. Catherine parked and walked to the front door, her heels clicking on the concrete path. She'd never done this before, gone to an employee's home. She'd certainly never gone to apologize to someone she'd fired. She rang the doorbell. A few moments later, the door opened. Marcus stood there, now wearing dry clothes, jeans and a faded t-shirt. His expression shifted from surprise to hardness when he saw who it was. "Miss Westfield?" "Mr. Cole. May I come in?" "Why? You already fired me. What else is there to say?" "Please, I need to talk to you." Marcus stared at her for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Fine, but make it quick. I need to pick up my son from school soon." Catherine walked into a modest living room. It was clean, but lived in. A video game controller sat on the couch. School papers covered the dining room table. Photos lined the walls. Marcus with a woman who must have been his wife. Marcus with his son at various ages. Family moments frozen in time. "Your home is lovely," Catherine said, then immediately felt stupid. She wasn't here for pleasantries. "Why are you here, Miss Westfield?" Catherine turned to face him. "I saw the video of what you did this morning. And I owe you an apology." Marcus's expression didn't soften. "An apology? That's it? I should have listened to you. When you tried to explain why you were late, I cut you off. I was so focused on enforcing rules that I didn't stop to hear the truth." Catherine took a breath. "You saved a child's life this morning, Mr. Cole. You risked your own life to pull a drowning boy from a flash flood, and I fired you for it. That was wrong." "Yes, it was." "I want to offer you your job back, with a raise, and a formal apology to the entire company." Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to offer me my job back? Let me guess, the video went viral, people are calling you heartless, it's bad for business, so now you want to fix it with a public apology and a raise?" Catherine felt her face heat. That's exactly what this is." Marcus crossed his arms. "You don't actually care that you were wrong. You care that you got caught being wrong. You care that it makes you look bad." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Marcus stepped closer. "You called saving a child's life irrelevant. You didn't want to hear my explanation. You just wanted to enforce your rules and feel powerful. And now that there are consequences, now that people see who you really are, suddenly you're sorry?" The words hit harder because they were true. Catherine had been so focused on being right, on maintaining control, that she'd stopped seeing Marcus as a person. She'd seen him as an inconvenience, a problem to eliminate. "You're right," Catherine said quietly. "I did care more about rules than people. I've spent so long building my company, fighting to be taken seriously, that I forgot why I started building in the first place. It was supposed to be about creating opportunities, about making communities better, but somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that." Marcus's expression shifted slightly, surprise flickering across his face. "I'm not asking you to come back for the company's image," Catherine continued. "I'm asking because you're a good employee who deserves better than how I treated you. And because you're right, I need to remember what actually matters. And it's not whether someone is 7 minutes late or 2 hours late. It's who they are when it counts." "And who am I, Miss Westfield?" "You're someone who jumps into a flooded creek without hesitation to save a child you don't know. You're someone who teaches your son to be brave and helpful.
You're someone who kept trying to explain even when I wouldn't listen." Catherine met his eyes. "You're exactly the kind of person I should want working for me, and I'm sorry I couldn't see that this morning."
Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Your apology doesn't fix everything. I spent 3 years being a good employee, never complaining, always hitting deadlines, and the one time I needed understanding, you offered none. You're right, I can't fix that, but I'd like to try to do better. Why should I believe you? Because I'm here. Catherine gestured around the room. I left the office in the middle of a crisis to come to your home and apologize face to face. I'm not hiding behind HR or a press release. I'm standing here admitting I was wrong. That's not easy for me, Mr. Cole, but it's necessary. Marcus studied her for a long moment. My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. She was sick for 8 months before she passed. During that time, I was late a lot. I missed deadlines. My performance suffered. My previous boss fired me 2 weeks after her funeral, said I was a liability. Catherine felt her throat tighten. When I interviewed at Westfield Development, I told myself I'd never let personal issues affect my work again. I'd be the perfect employee, always on time, always professional, always reliable, because I couldn't afford to lose another job. Jordan needed stability. We needed the income. Marcus's voice was steady, but there was pain underneath. So when you fired me this morning for being late, it wasn't just about losing a job. It was about failing again, about not being enough. You are enough, Catherine said quietly. More than enough, and I'm sorry I made you feel otherwise. The front door burst open. Jordan came running in, backpack bouncing, stopping short when he saw Catherine. "Dad, there are reporters outside our house. They want to talk about what you did this morning." Jordan's eyes were bright with excitement. "You're famous. Everyone at school was talking about it. Mrs. Peterson said you're a hero." Marcus put a hand on his son's shoulder. "Buddy, this is Miss Westfield, my boss, my former boss." Jordan's expression shifted to wariness. "You're the one who fired him for saving Tommy?" Catherine felt the judgment of a 10-year-old keenly. "I am, and I was wrong." "Yeah, you were." Jordan moved closer to his father protectively. "My dad is the best person I know. He helps people. He always does the right thing, and you fired him for it." "Jordan," Marcus warned gently. "No, he's right." Catherine looked at Jordan. "Your father is an extraordinary person. I failed to see that this morning. I'm trying to make it right. Are you giving him his job back?" "I'm trying to, if he'll accept." Jordan looked up at his father. "Are you going to?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know yet, buddy. It's complicated." "It seems simple to me," Jordan shrugged. "She messed up. She's apologizing. Either you believe her or you don't." Out of the mouths of babes, Catherine almost smiled. "Can I talk to Miss Westfield alone for a minute?" Marcus asked his son. Jordan nodded and headed toward his room, but not before giving Catherine one more assessing look. After he left, Marcus turned back to Catherine. "If I come back, things need to be different." "How?" "I need flexibility. I'm a single parent. Sometimes there are emergencies. Sometimes Jordan gets sick. Sometimes school calls and I need to leave. I need to know that won't be held against me." "Agreed. And I need you to see your employees as people, not just productivity metrics. We have lives outside this office, families, problems. We're not machines." Catherine absorbed this. "You're right. I've been so focused on results that I stopped seeing the people delivering those results. That needs to change." "Will it change, or will you go back to the way things were once this media storm blows over?" It was the key question, and Catherine didn't have an easy answer. "I don't know," she admitted. "Old habits are hard to break, but I want to try, and I could use someone to hold me accountable, someone who's not afraid to tell me when I'm being unreasonable." "You want me to be your conscience?" "I want you to be my employee who's also willing to be honest with me, even when it's uncomfortable." Marcus considered this.
I want my job back, but I want it in writing. Flexible hours when needed, no retaliation for personal emergencies, and I want you to make the same policy available to other employees, not just me. Done. And I want you to personally apologize to the team for how you handled this, not because it's good PR, but because they deserve to know their boss can admit when she's wrong. Catherine nodded. I'll do it tomorrow morning, all staff meeting. Then I'll be there. They shook hands and Catherine felt something shift. This wasn't just about fixing a PR disaster. This was about becoming the kind of leader she'd always told herself she was, but had failed to actually be.
The next morning, Catherine stood in front of her entire company. 47 employees gathered in the main conference room, watching her with expressions ranging from curiosity to judgment. "Thank you for coming on short notice," Catherine began. "I owe all of you an apology. Yesterday, I fired Marcus Cole for being 2 hours late to work. I did this without listening to his explanation. I did this because I valued punctuality over humanity." She could feel the tension in the room. Everyone had heard what happened. Everyone had seen the video. What I didn't know, what I refused to hear, was that Marcus was late because he saved a 5-year-old boy from drowning in a flash flood. He risked his life without hesitation, and when he tried to explain this to me, I called it irrelevant. Catherine paused, making eye contact with various employees. I was wrong, completely, inexcusably wrong. I've spent years building this company, and somewhere along the way, I forgot why I started. I forgot that business is about people, that success means nothing if we lose our humanity in pursuit of it. She gestured to Marcus, who stood at the back of the room. Marcus has agreed to return to Westfield Development, but his return comes with changes. Effective immediately, we're implementing a flexible emergency policy. Life happens. Families have needs. We're going to trust our employees to manage their responsibilities while also being humans who sometimes face unexpected situations. There was a murmur through the crowd. Surprise, approval, relief. I can't promise I'll be perfect. I can't promise I won't fall back into old patterns, but I'm committing to try, to listen more, to remember that each of you is a person with a life outside these walls, and I'm asking for your patience as I learn to be a better leader. The room was quiet for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Then another person. Then the whole room erupted in applause. Marcus caught Catherine's eye and nodded. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. Over the next few months, things changed at Westfield Development. Not overnight and not without challenges. Catherine had spent years being rigid and exacting. Learning flexibility was like learning a new language, but she tried. When Sarah Kim's mother was hospitalized and Sarah needed 2 days off with no notice, Catherine approved it immediately. When David Hernandez's son had a school play at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, Catherine told him to leave early and make up the time later. When Jennifer needed to work from home 3 days a week to care for her aging father, Catherine restructured her role to make it possible. The culture shifted, slowly but noticeably. Employees seemed lighter, more engaged. Productivity actually increased rather than decreased. People worked harder when they felt trusted, when they felt valued as humans rather than just workers. Catherine and Marcus developed an unexpected working relationship that bordered on friendship. He became someone she bounced ideas off, someone who would tell her the truth even when it was uncomfortable. "You're micromanaging the Riverside project," he told her one afternoon, standing in her office doorway. "I'm providing oversight. You're driving Amanda crazy. She knows what she's doing. Let her do it." Catherine bristled, then caught herself. "You're right. I'll back off." "That wasn't so hard, was it?" "It was excruciating, actually." Marcus grinned. "You're getting better at it, though." He was right. It was getting easier. 6 months after the flash flood incident, Catherine received an unexpected invitation.
Linda Harrison, the mother of the boy Marcus had saved, wanted to host a community event honoring local heroes. Marcus was being given an award, and she wanted Catherine to present it. Me? Catherine had stared at the invitation. Why would she want me to present anything? Because redemption is part of the story, Marcus said simply. You made a mistake, you fixed it. People respect that journey. The event was held at the community center on a Saturday afternoon. It was surprisingly well attended, maybe 150 people, including several local news stations. Tommy Harrison, now 6 years old and healthy, stood on stage with his mother. I want to thank Mr. Marcus for saving me, he said into the microphone, his small voice amplified through the room. I was really scared, but he came and helped me. He's a real hero. The crowd applauded. Tommy handed Marcus a plaque with his name engraved on it. Local Hero Award, Marcus Cole, for extraordinary courage. Then it was Catherine's turn. She stepped up to the microphone, acutely aware of every eye on her. 6 months ago, Marcus Cole came to work 2 hours late, soaking wet and covered in mud. I fired him without asking why, without listening to his explanation, without showing an ounce of the compassion he'd shown a drowning child that very morning. She paused, looking out at the crowd. I tell you this, not to embarrass myself, though I certainly deserve that embarrassment, but to make a point. We live in a world that often values rules over people, profits over compassion, efficiency over humanity. I was guilty of all of that. I'd built a successful company but lost sight of what success actually means. Catherine turned to Marcus. This man reminded me, not with words, but with actions. He showed me what it means to do the right thing even when it costs you something. He showed me that being a leader isn't about enforcing rules, it's about recognizing and celebrating the good in people. She held up her own plaque, smaller than Marcus's, but meaningful. Marcus asked that instead of giving him this award, we create a scholarship in Tommy Harrison's name, a scholarship for children of single parents who want to pursue careers in emergency services. Because that's who Marcus is. He doesn't want recognition, he wants to create more heroes. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Marcus looked embarrassed but pleased. Tommy was clapping enthusiastically, still too young to fully understand, but old enough to know something important was happening. After the ceremony, Catherine found herself standing with Linda Harrison. Thank you for inviting me, said Catherine. I wasn't sure I deserved to be part of this. You deserve it because you changed. Most people in power double down when they're wrong. You admitted your mistake. You fixed it, and you've continued working to be better. That matters. Your son is lucky to have you. And Marcus is lucky to have you as a boss now. He talks about how different work has become, how much better. Catherine felt warmth spread through her chest. It was the best compliment she'd received in years. Marcus stood in his new office, actually an office, not just a cubicle, looking out at the Westfield development floor. He'd been promoted to senior project coordinator 3 months ago, with a significant raise and a small team reporting to him. Dad! Jordan appeared in his doorway. It was one of the perks of the new flexible policy. Jordan could come to the office after school when needed. He did his homework in the break room, helped himself to snacks from the kitchen, and charmed every employee he encountered. What's up, buddy? Miss Westfield wants to see you. She says it's important. Marcus ruffled his son's hair and headed to Catherine's office. She was on the phone, but waved him in, gesturing to a chair. No, I understand the concerns, but I'm not changing the policy. Flexible work arrangements have increased our productivity by 18%. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high, and retention has improved dramatically.
She paused, listening. I don't care what other companies are doing. We're doing what's right for our people. She hung up and looked at Marcus. Board member who thinks I've gone soft. Have you? I prefer to think I've gone human. She smiled. But I didn't call you in here to discuss my management philosophy. I have a proposition. I'm listening. I'm opening a new division, community development projects, affordable housing, community centers, spaces that serve underserved populations. I want you to head it up." Marcus blinked. "Head it up? Catherine, I'm not qualified." "You're exactly qualified. You understand what real communities need because you live in one. You understand that business should serve people, not just profit. And you're not afraid to tell me when I'm being too focused on the bottom line. This is a huge responsibility. I know. That's why I'm offering it to you, with a significant salary increase, a team of your choosing, and autonomy to make decisions." Catherine leaned forward. "I've spent years building profitable projects. I want to build meaningful ones. I need someone who understands that distinction. That's you." Marcus thought about his journey over the past year, from being fired in front of his colleagues to standing here, being offered a position that would change his career trajectory completely. "On one condition," he said. "Name it." "Jordan's daycare closes at 6. Sometimes I'll need to leave at 5:30. No exceptions, no excuses. My son comes first." Catherine smiled. "Agreed. Family always comes first. That's the point of everything we've been trying to build here." They shook hands, and Marcus felt something settle in his chest. Hope, security, the sense that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Later that evening, Marcus and Jordan sat in their backyard, sharing a pizza while the sun set over their small neighborhood. Jordan was talking animatedly about his day at school, about the science project he was working on, about the basketball game coming up next week. Marcus listened, really listened, grateful for this moment, this life they'd built together after so much loss. "Dad," Jordan said suddenly, "remember that morning when we saved Tommy, when you jumped in the creek?" "I remember." "I was scared when you went in the water. I thought maybe you wouldn't come back up." Marcus pulled his son close. "I was scared too, but I couldn't let that boy drown. You understand that, right? Sometimes being scared doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act despite being scared." "Is that what being a hero means?" "I think being a hero means doing the right thing even when it costs you something, even when it's hard, even when no one's watching." Jordan leaned against his father's shoulder. "You're my hero, Dad. And you're mine, buddy. You helped save Tommy too, don't forget that." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened and stars began to appear. Marcus thought about that morning a year ago, the alarm that didn't go off, the flooded road, the split-second decision that had changed everything. He thought about Catherine Westfield, the woman who'd fired him and then learned to be better. About the job he loved, the career that was flourishing, the sense of purpose he'd found. But mostly he thought about Tommy Harrison, a 5-year-old boy who was alive right now because one person decided that being late to work was less important than saving a life. Sometimes the right choice is also the hard choice. Sometimes doing what matters means risking what's safe. But those moments, those split-second decisions to jump into rushing water, to speak truth to power, to choose compassion over convenience, those are the moments that define who we are. Marcus had jumped into the water without hesitation, and in doing so, he hadn't just saved Tommy's life, he'd saved his own. He'd reminded himself and everyone around him that humanity matters more than punctuality, that courage is about more than physical acts, that real success is measured not in profits, but in the lives we touch and the people we become. A year ago, he'd been fired for being a hero. Today, he was thriving because someone learned that heroes deserve to be celebrated, not punished. And that made all the difference. If this story reminded you that doing the right thing always matters, even when it costs you something, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about courage, redemption, and the power of choosing compassion over convenience.